Well, welcome to another episode of Raising the Grade. I'm Eric Russell, your host, and today I have probably my most special guest. This guest I know really, really well. He is my offspring. Cohen, welcome to the show.
I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, this is kind of fun. We were like brainstorming a little bit, and it was like, we could have this person or we could have that person. And then we were like, well, let's just talk about, what a crazy dad I am. No, I'm just kidding. That was not the conversation. So today my hope is to kind of get into your brain a little bit. And, it's one thing to think you kind of know your kid or any person, right? And then you're forced to sit down and kind of ask them some questions. And then you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take note of that. So the first thing I kind of hit everybody with, and this might be more for everybody than me, but we'll see, is if somebody asks you on the street, who is Cohen? Can you tell me who is Cohen?
Oh, yeah, that's one that always stumps me.
Gets everybody.
It's like, who am I versus like what am I doing like with my life?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I feel like it's hard to put a label on like who you are as a person.
Let's go deep.
But who am I? 19 years old, living in Arizona for the past 3.5 years, exactly, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Started a family about 1.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Got married.
Wait, 3 months ago?
3 or 4 months ago,
yeah.
Give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty awesome. But
I like it.
Who I am, I would need I would need a while to study and take notes. And
think up an answer for that.
Yeah.
I know. I think the majority of my guests have been older. They've been in business for a while. We might have some fun with this. How about one of the other guests I had, kind of had himself looking in the future 30, 40 years and then looking back and going, you know what? You might not want to do that. Have you ever done anything where you think about yourself, your older you, your 50, 60-year-old you looking back and some check marks or some boxes that you definitely want to check? Maybe instead of who you are, the question is who are you striving to be or who are you hoping to become?
Yeah. That's definitely a better question. I could probably answer that a little bit better.
Okay.
But do I see myself at 50, 60, 70-year-olds looking back and be like, oh, you probably shouldn't do that? Or like, you should think twice. I kind of live my life on a basis of like, okay, am I going to regret this? Am I not going to regret this? And that's kind of how I make decisions for the most part. Obviously, fair. I'm human, people make impulsive decisions, but where do I want to be in 20, 30, 40 years? I mean, I think by the time I'm 30, I want to be building my dream compound,
Good word.
I want a couple horses on there.
Okay.
And then by the time I'm 50 or 60, I think I'll have a couple grandkids.
Let's go.
I see myself definitely traveling the world way before then. So probably around the time that my compound is built is around the time where I'll probably realistically start traveling the world. Obviously that's something I want to do before then, but life happens.
Yeah, we all want to just go on a yacht all day.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, end of story. That's exciting. That means the possibility for grandkids is real. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
More
great
grandkids.
Great grandkids.
Great
is what
grandkids.
I was trying to say. Yes, I have a granddaughter. Lovely little Ruby. Miss her already. So that's fun. What are some things I think at the young age of 19, you've kind of lived maybe a few more years than that. Tell me about kind of some of the jobs you've had and maybe a little nugget that you've picked up from all of them, or maybe some things that you've seen different employers do just even at your ripe age of 19 that you liked, didn't like, things you would hope would be a certain way at maybe Rising Tide Landscapes.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean,
experience.
Since I got my first job working for your best friend Jeremy back home, and that lasted about 3 months, and I feel like as much as I didn't realize it in the moment, I learned a lot just about like work ethic and people skills and
how to navigate a crawl space.
That was fun. But starting there, I definitely learned that like it's not a unicorn and rainbows out in the field, you know? I also learned that like work ethic, basically. I learned what not to do by doing that because I was I was lazy. I wanted to quit.
Leave early.
It was really hard, you know, for 15-year-old self. But then once I came out to Arizona and I got my first job, Barrows. I loved that. I stayed there for about 9 months. And kind of what I took away from that was it was the best boss I've ever had. I loved him. You've met him. You know, he even came up to us when we were sitting down and he was like, you know, he gave me my flowers while we were sitting down. But I guess one takeaway that I got from that was just like, you know, if the right person is the boss per se, like your company or store or family or whatever is really going to thrive, because I feel like I wanted to show up for him and make sure that you know, he was happy with the output that I was putting in. So within a couple months, I was already the second highest paid cook, and everyone hated me and didn't like me at first because I was so bad at making pizzas. And then throughout there, I think I really just learned people skills, and that's how I landed a job, because right after Barrows, I went straight into like painting cars with the body work and the touch up and all that stuff.
That's right.
And I landed that job just strictly off of people skills. I was the youngest person they'd ever hired by I think about 12 years. The youngest before me was about 28. I was 17. That was a learning lesson for both me and the company. I think that lasted about 3 months. But it was really fun though. I got to learn a lot. Like, I think just the biggest thing throughout all my jobs is really just connecting with people and learning their story. And
it's great value there.
From that, I've just learned that like whether you're 21 or 35, like age is really just a number, as cliche as that is. Age is really just a number.
In a lot of respects. In a lot of respects. I think I've had some older guests in here that, you know, they look back at their 20-year-old self and go, man, what was I thinking? How did I make it home alive? You know, and some people, you know, I had another guest in here recently who I think was 23 and like leaps and bounds ahead of where I was at 23. And I'm like, you know, I think comparing is a thing to not do, you know, because it's definitely everybody's individual journey. But I think age ain't nothing but a number, for a lot of conversational points. You know, I have so much fun engaging with different people. You know, if I just hung out with 46-year-olds that wore flannels and like to talk about fishing, life would be really boring. But I try not to. You know, I live around younger people. I've got you guys in my life. I have, you know, just several different circles, and then my job, I'm able to interact with so many different folks. So that said, so these different places you've worked, these different bosses you've had, I can see Jeremy and Sean and the paint touch-up people, and even getting into Caden and these guys. You know, are there any similar traits that you can kind of say, yeah, they all had this quality, or were they all just kind of very unique?
Yeah, I feel like every job I've had, whoever I was working under was unique in their own way. I mean, that's kind of a given, you know.
Fair, but like, I feel like there's always kind of like worker bees, and then you know.
Yeah, I felt like I was able to build a personal connection with whoever I was working with, and that's how I was able to thrive. Was just based off of
for each of the different
jobs. You know, after the paint thing, there was a big. It gets really blurry just because of how many jobs I've actually had. But yeah, like working for Caden and them, it was an interesting dynamic, because it was like, you know, that I was working under them, but at the same time, like without me, their company was nothing, and vice versa. Without them, I was nothing. You know, so it was kind of an interesting dynamic between us, because, you know, technically I answer to them, but like my role in the company like wasn't the same as what they were doing, right? Because I was going door to door, generating about 80% of the revenue. Well, I'll be humble, maybe 60% of the revenue is what I was generating, going door to door.
Leads matter. Leads are the gas in any company. You know, I've just, you know, I'm always playing around with different systems and like, hey, let's try this and let's try that. And I, turn the wrong button off at the wrong time and leads went, and so then I had to just tweak things a little bit and they came back on. But it's like, yeah, no, that's a huge part. But maybe back to, let me rephrase the question. Not so much you, but the people that you work for. Trying to get a picture of like them and common traits maybe they all had that you liked or would change. I'm trying to get to a bigger question that's coming next.
Okay. I think one of the most common traits that I really enjoyed was just the transparency.
Okay.
The full transparency. I feel like
at all of the places, pretty much.
I would say so.
I think that's unique to
you I feel like
to draw that out of people. Okay, keep going.
At almost all the places I've worked at, I felt like there was a lot of transparency. And so I was able to be very comfortable in like where I was going in the company. I would say that's probably the most common trait that I really liked, was just the transparency between everyone. I'm trying to think of a job that I might have had that I didn't. I mean, I guess UPS, like that, I didn't really have a boss. It was like,
and also I feel like it's like, not only is it transparent, like, but nobody's telling you what could happen. It's like, after you work X hours, you're going to get Y, and then you can do this and do Z. And it's a little more like, it's very streamlined. It's very organized, but I think what you were looking for is maybe organic transparency. Like, hey, this is where you're at. You work for us for this long. This is where we hope to get you. And here's what we're going to help you, how we're going to help you get there.
Yeah, that's definitely a common trait in most all the people I've worked for.
I feel like that's a you thing, maybe in the companies you're applying for, the type of jobs you're looking for or something, because I don't think you'd have it any other way. Yeah. I don't think you'd work in the dark.
I mean, water seeks its own level.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like we're just naturally attracted to each other when it comes from an employer-employee standpoint.
I think to a lot of levels, you're very right. I'm looking at the team that I'm building around me. And a lot of them have reflective qualities. Like, it's not a bunch of mini me's, but you're right. There are a lot of reflective qualities that, like, at some point, like, there's probably some qualities that I might be less inclined to hire,
Definitely.
So given kind of your background, who you work for and some of their traits, how can you apply any of those to yourself? Like, what are some things you think, as you, for me, kind of step into a leadership role here soon, what are some things that you can garner from them that you might want to apply? Excuse me.
Yeah, I think, stepping into a leadership role, I think one of the things that I would apply is like praise. Like, I think praise is very important. Like, I feel like a lot of people in the construction industry are very negative and you got soft hands, brother. Like, that type of thing.
Just like that. Too.
Yeah. And no, I feel like a lot of praise, like, hey, I really liked how you did this. Next time, this is how we do it. Like, rather than just like, oh, you did that wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Like, they're not going to think about, they're just going to tune you out. Yeah. Right. But, if you give them some praise before, whatever it might be.
And then you follow it up with praise. I don't know where I've heard the methodology, but it's essentially praise, criticism, praise. It's going to be received really, really well. Don't always do it that great myself, but it's just definitely something that, like, when I'm thinking, I try to do that.
Yeah. And I think another trait that I would apply would be kind of lowering myself on the totem pole a little bit, like maybe being a little bit more humble.
Sure.
Kind of making people feel like they can relate to me in
You're
a
one
sense.
of the guys.
Yeah. To where, like, they see a real opportunity in being able to grow in the company when they look at my skill set compared to their skill set. Because I did like that a lot, with past companies. I know, like, I compare myself in a healthy way. Like, I know you can't look behind the curtain.
Not also.
Yeah.
Right?
It's impossible to not compare yourself. But I feel like when comparing myself, I was able to kind of gauge, kind of how I was doing based off of that. And I think I definitely shot myself in the foot a little bit by comparing. I think I got too ahead of myself and got too confident because I thought I was more skilled or knowledgeable than I actually was. So, it's you give a little, take a little when it comes to comparing.
No, for sure. Self-reflection's hard. It is brutal sometimes, because I think what you were thinking the whole time as well. like there's what the outside is, but then there's also like what you were thinking the whole time too, which then you got to kind of really own up to at some point. So this is exciting to have you on this journey with me, and this is a fun conversation to have.
Yeah.
What are maybe some of the highlights of working for your old man, and maybe some of the lowlights that like people don't see, that's like, maybe feel free to be open here, that they're just challenging, right? You know, I worked with my parents in restaurants for a while, so I know there was some bitter and some sweet. What are some of your thoughts so far?
Yeah. No, so far it's been a ride, and I've enjoyed it a lot. I think so backtrack a little bit. In January of this year is when I helped Caden and Colin build their window cleaning business. You know, it was a team effort. We all played a very important role. Yep. And my role was door-to-door sales, generating the leads.
It's tough.
It was very tough, and I just kind of got thrown into it. I was like, you know what? I can talk to people. People, you know, tend to like me sometimes. Like, I'll give it a shot.
My last guest was a door knocker for a period. Keep going.
Yeah. And no, I really enjoyed the door knocking, but at the same time, I did not like it at all. So it was like kind of it was really weird because I was hot and cold. I was hot and cold.
But you
like,
did it. I remember so many phone calls like, Dad, I'm trying this. And I was into sales books like at that time, like a ton. So it was so fun because I'm like, oh, you tried this and did this work, but like you still showed up and did it. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. No, I still did it. And I'm very grateful that I did, because I literally, the past 9 months, I've talked to probably 20,000 people, give or take. Like, like I've talked to a lot of people. And so that's been a blessing. Going forward a little bit, right before I started working with you, I was doing the window sales.
Yeah.
I just pretty much put my back against the wall and was like,
that. Like, I mean, I didn't forget, but like that didn't make it into your story a minute ago of all the 17.
Yeah, I only got to my first 2 or 3. But no, yeah, I was doing the window cleaning and the window sales, actual windows,
appointment setting for a window,
high performance, energy efficient windows. I was setting appointments for the marketing director to go in and see if the customer's a fit or not.
Yep.
Anyways, so I was doing door knocking for the past 9 months. So when I came to work with you, we were like, hey, we need leads. I can knock doors. Yeah. We kind of built our own little system, and I was loving it at first, and then it kind of just got to the point where working for my dad, there was kind of no structure. I had to make my own structure. I had to build my own system. We had to figure out what CRM we wanted to use, how we were going to scout the neighborhood. So we ended up using a drone to take overhead shots, and I would mark out each individual house that had dirt backyards. And so with the door knocking, I think I loved it here on one hand, but I also didn't like it on one hand. I think one of the struggles I had was essentially just productivity. Holding yourself accountable is hard when no one else is, honestly. It's really hard. So I think that's one thing that I didn't like. It was not so much knocking the doors, but just putting in the work and holding myself accountable to whatever standard I feel like holding myself to was the hardest part.
Literally the hardest thing to do in life.
Yeah. So that was kind of what I didn't like, was the door knocking. I did it and I liked it on one hand, but it's kind of like 60-40. I liked it, but I mostly didn't like it.
There's some days where you definitely hated it.
Yeah, mainly just because I had to build I was a pioneer, like knocking doors.
You did great. Like, we're like on the cusp of being able to like just turn a key here. We might need to revisit that.
Yeah. Our guy Brian is doing great.
Hire a knocker.
But no, coming from the door knocking and then just working in the field with the guys ever since then, I've been having a blast. I've loved every second of it. There's not one second where I thought to myself, what am I doing here? I want to do something else. Like, no, I'm happy. I'm thriving. It's been really fun building connection with a bunch of guys that are from a different country, and so you learn a new language, a new culture. And then also just like going back to the age thing, it's hard to put an age on someone that you can't speak the same language as. It's hard to see age. It hurts my head to think about, because it's like you can only communicate on a surface level, and so it's
you're all second graders right now.
Exactly, we're all second graders is what it feels like, because we can only say a few things.
Interesting.
But no, with that, working in the field, I've loved every second of it. I feel like I'm learning so much, and that's I love learning. Yep. As much as I hated school, I love learning.
There's different learning. There's kind of applied knowledge, you know. I definitely have a take that's different than a lot there, but I think you learn so much more doing a thing than watching a thing. Now, it's so interesting because there's so many parallels here too to my last guest. I hate to keep going back to him, but he learned a lot from YouTube. Like,
Yeah.
so
did I. That was how I got all my training for the first 6 months of all my sales. Was all YouTube. So I was like, okay, dude, if I go into this organization where people are making stupid money and they have systems in place and training, okay, I'm in. Sign me up. Within 3 weeks, I broke the company record for the most revenue in a single week. So it was pretty fun. But then after that, I got cold feet and
I was like,
slumped.
Keep going. Yeah.
You know,
the
so
rest
like
of the story.
Yeah, after that, you know, so I ended up making, you know, an average salary for the 3 months averaged out. But that one
You made it in 1 week, though. That was bizarre to think about. Like, you had me rethinking my life.
Yeah.
I was like, I can knock doors. I can talk to people. This could be epic.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
was stupid, crazy money for the input.
Wow, we almost didn't have Rising Tide Landscapes. Yeah, no, that's super
But yeah,
fun.
working for you, ever since I kind of stepped out of that door-to-door position that I was kind of thrown into at the beginning of the year, I've been able to kind of find myself again and what I'm happy doing. And like every time I'm driving home, like I'm happy. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and I always think back to when I was younger. I remember probably being in like grade school and mom asked my mom asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. And super simple. I just told her I wanted to be happy.
Yeah.
And so like that's just been my number one thing, like in the trajectory of where I'm going in my career. I haven't really cared as long as I'm happy. That's kind of been my main focus.
Wow. And it's funny because like you're doing hard things right now. Like you're shoveling dirt. You have a lot of pick action. You have a lot of lifting heavy pavers and rolling out heavy turf and carrying heavy bags of sand.
Yeah.
And your back has already paid the price a couple of times. But here you are being like, yeah, no, I'm happy. And I feel you because when I used to build loads, I hurt my back several times and, you know, had some big old splinters in the worst places. And at the end of the day, I was like, yeah, I built that. That's awesome. I couldn't wait to go to work the next day and just come home hurting, basically.
I mean, when you wake up in the morning, you forget about all the pain.
Honestly, you certainly do. What are some of the things or some of the goals that you might have just currently? You know, I know you got put on the spot coming in here and I love you for it. And lots of other reasons, but what are some goals you have kind of inside Rising Tide, or do you see kind of a perfect role for you? And we'll see how this plays out in 5 years, but like, have you had enough time even to think about like, okay, this is really where you drop the pin for me and I stay here and I sit here, you know, like, do you know yet? Is that fair? Is it a fair question?
I mean, I think my main goal within the company is like I do understand that like I'm gonna have to do what I have to do, and that's that. I know you're my dad, you want me to be happy and stuff, but at the same time, I think one of my main goals is just to be as malleable as possible to where I can just kind of fit wherever I'm needed the most, and I just hope that I thrive wherever I end up. I think I do really fantasize myself being in a leadership position. I think I was born to lead. I really do think that I would enjoy that. I know growing up, all my teachers are like, you're a leader. You're meant to be a leader and stuff. It sounds super cliche coming out of my mouth, but I'm really excited to grow into a leadership position. And I think that's just where I'm really going to thrive and be very useful.
I really think so. I have seen you happy a lot of times, but I don't know if I've seen you in the past 6 months, maybe as happy. So Nolan, my first guest with Bellegarde, put on a clinic for Bellegarde art forms. And I was like, Cohen, you're going. And you're like, yeah, okay. You know, like, you know, I'll go do that. And you were glowing afterwards. Like, I thought that like, you know, you might have gotten, you know, won a Lamborghini or something afterwards. So tell me about the difference between learning in school and that kind of learning. What did that do for you? Because that lit a fire in you. You're ready to like go to every class. Bellegarde U on December 12th.
Yeah, I wanted to go to landscape school. I was like, give me everything. I want to learn. Come on, tell me the irrigation. I'll do everything. I just want to learn. Oh man, I think the biggest difference is like, I mean, I dropped out of high school, put it this way. You know, God bless you and mom for encouraging me, supporting me, and believing in me that I wasn't going to go end up on, you know, 19th Avenue or whatever it's called. No, the difference between school learning and learning in the field, I feel like, is the difference between college and trade school.
Okay.
I trade school, you learn a literal skill that never goes away, that you'll be able to use for the rest of your life. College is similar, depending on what you do. I don't really want to go into college, but I think, and from my school experience, I didn't like learning because I felt like it didn't serve a purpose. I was like, I'm just going to use a calculator. I'm just going to use Google. Like, I don't need, like, give me out. And that's what it's been. Like, I literally don't need.
Literally now people are learning how to use AI.
Yeah, no, literally. So I think with school, I just didn't really see a point. I knew that I was going to be successful regardless of the tiers of education that I went through. And the learning in the field and learning a skill, I feel like I'm building myself. You know, I feel like I'm a character and I'm like upping my ranks slowly.
Yeah. You're leveling, you know.
I'm leveling up.
I agree. I've seen such a change and excitement in you since that course. I'm excited to have some more courses lined up for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that one in December.
But I don't think anybody under 40 is going to ever watch this, but let's just say that they forward this to their 16-year-old, 15-year-old kid who's struggling in school. Now I'm good with, you know, staying in or getting a GED or something, but would you encourage them to maybe like look at some of the pathways inside of school to, like, what was it, EVIT program here in Arizona? Yeah. Or maybe, like, you know, aren't there ways to kind of start going down the trade path even in high school? Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, I think I would just start with, you know, a broad generalization of what you want to do.
A category, maybe mechanics or construction or nursing.
Or not even that, like a bigger category. Just a general, very broad category, and then from there start to kind of simplify. Okay, you know, I really find interest in this. Put some options on the table. And then, as a high schooler, you know, 15, 16 years old, I highly recommend the EVIT program. You can get a lot of certifications for pretty much any trade through there. I know some schools provide welding and auto. Yeah. I met my wife in auto class, which is pretty funny.
Yes.
But I definitely wouldn't recommend dropping out of high school. I think just in my scenario, it was pretty rare. You know, I met the love of my life. I flunked school. My whole previous high school, COVID, you know, it was just weird.
Yes.
So I didn't see my senior year benefiting me at all. But, you know, say if we had lived in Oregon, like I definitely would have finished out high school, I think.
Intriguing.
And stayed in it just because of my friends. I didn't have any friends at this school.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So it's a very interesting scenario. I would definitely recommend, you know, the EVIT programs. Those are splendid. Pretty much just anything in the trades. So you can get into a lot of the trades just in high school, coming out of high school. I know there's a school that I looked into that was like 3 months long. It was like 7,000, and you come out with a full certification for HVAC, electrical, plumbing, anything you kind of want to do in that trade in just a matter of a couple months. And it's a fraction of the price of college. So like that route is definitely something I recommend, unless you want to be.
And a lot of them you're getting paid while you learn.
Somewhat. If you're working on the job. Yeah. And I mean, unless you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or give me like something in those categories.
A CPA or just some
CPA, an accountant, finance, a true
where
professional.
You need a certification. I think we're painting with broad brushes here, but I think that guys like Mike Rowe, the guys I know would all say, you know, either go that really high level pro route or, you know, do something really specific, like maybe something, you know, marketing, where you're going to learn everything there is to learn about marketing, the advertising, the sales, the pitch, the landing page, and all those things, and be good at a craft. And that might require some schooling, but I think maybe the word is craft. Go be a craftsman, whether it's in the craft of law or the craft of, you know, a block or electrical.
I mean, to get into it a little bit more, I mean, I think some of the most important skills you could learn is how to work with your hands and how to use your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Communicating with people is one of the most important and valuable skills that you're ever going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you could find a job that incorporates you being able to communicate with people efficiently,
mm-hmm.
or the trades working with your hands, like
mm-hmm.
one of those routes, you can always go back to college or whatever,
mm-hmm.
but you're going to make a good living in one of those industries, whether
mm-hmm.
it's sales, the trades, whatever it may be. You can always go back.
I'm going to leave here and look at the stats. I'm so curious because I feel like I've heard stats thrown out there recently of like how dire need we're going to be in the trades, and just like not overstating.
I mean, no, because we have hundreds of thousands of people making hundreds of thousands of dollars on social media and on their phone. They don't have to leave their house, and they're not providing any legitimate service to society. They're just providing brain rot for you to look at your phone and scroll.
To some degree, I feel like that isn't even as true as we might all be led to believe. Like, I just don't think that many people, again, I'm going to get fact checked, and that's cool. I'm curious, but like, I'm going to go look this up when I leave. I don't think there's that many people making that much money on social media. I think it's like the new gold rush, and everybody's hyped up about it and wants to do it. And like they're making moves to go do it. But I feel like finishing is the hard part. I think it's the same for me in business. You and your leadership roles you desire, like thinking about it and beginning to act on it, it's kind of easy. Going the distance and finishing it out, that's gonna be where the real challenge is with any of these things. Wow, fun. We have covered a lot of ground so far. So I'm excited to help you and do whatever I can to mold a leadership role for you. What are some things that you would hope for out of our company in terms of like, what are the best case scenario and like the bare minimums for like benefits or pay or quality of life or work-life balance? Like, what are maybe in the industry for our guys, hopefully someday this is your company. What are some things that like would make you excited about the future of Rising Tide landscape specifically?
I mean, when you say that, I don't really think about myself. Like I said, like I'm your son, so I already kind of have my path paved out for me, and I'm just kind of willing to go whichever direction it takes me.
Sure.
But I think what gets me most excited is just seeing our guys grow and thrive and make more money and support their families. I think that's one of my main goals is to like just really see them happy where they're at and thrive and making a lot more money. And it's hard because, everyone's scenario is different, when it comes to our employees and stuff. But I definitely would be very excited for like dental, vision, healthcare, stuff like that. Once we're, getting
out of
there,
the gates a little bit.
Once we stack a couple M's,
I like it.
But that I'm most excited to really just to see, just to build out crews, have solid guys, and just really, be an opportunity for someone to come into. I really think that with the systems that we're going to have in place, it's going to be really easy for any young kid or older guy to come in and really find where they fit throughout the company and thrive.
Ooh, that's gold right there. Yeah, we had a too long meeting today, just kind of about systems. We're going to take on a new CRM first of the year.
Yeah.
And it's just system heavy, like it's made to build out process. I'm so excited about it. I think if I could step on your toes a little bit and maybe steal from what you said, and maybe help, maybe we can agree on this. In sales, a lot of times you are selling the feature, right? So for a lot of times sales was the benefit, right? Well, hey, this will, this will make you smell better. Well, that might be true, but really maybe somebody buys it because they'll be perceived as more attractive, right? So you're selling the feature. And sometimes when I think about the company, I think about, well, what does the painted picture look like? And for me, the painted picture is, 5-10 crews in a healthy office, all having a giant 4th of July cookout, and everybody shows up because they like each other.
Yeah.
And they like the company and they want to see it grow. So that's kind of my painted picture of what I think I heard you saying, because like the vision and the dental and all that stuff, that's coming. We're going to get there. But I think the system, I think it all plays together, I guess, because you mentioned systems too. And if you've got really clean, sharp systems and you run a tight ship, well, guess what? Everybody knows whose job is what. And instead of it being like, oh, you know, I don't know who, I'm sorry. It's like, no, that's their job. And we just have accountability, availability, which I'm excited about. I'm excited to have Morgan come in, and he's really going to be a good accountability partner, you know, that'll take a lot of weight off my shoulders in that department as well. What about personal growth? Like today I had a conversation with one of my employees that wanted to, you know, start just a little bit later, and we figured out how to kind of make that happen. What are some personal goals that you might have, you know, outside of work that you think that maybe the company might be able to help you with? Like, I don't know, is it time off? Is it paid learning? What is it? What does it look like?
Yeah, personal goals outside of, you know, going to work that the company can help me with.
Maybe,
maybe just kind of spitballing here. Man, I don't know. I feel like I'm so laser focused right now on just, you know, providing for my family and being present at home. You know, I feel like that's kind of one of my like main focuses.
Should be.
I try not to think too far in the future, just because I have done that in the past. It didn't work out too well for me. One of the biggest things I learned throughout, you know, all the jobs I had is just live in the moment and just focus on your skill set that you have now and how you can get better. Not like pretending like you've already made $100,000 or pretending like you're already making $100,000 and you already have the skills it takes to do that. Just focus on, you know, where you're actually at within the company. So that's kind of what I've been doing here.
It's huge.
Is just living and being myself, you know, not thinking that I have some broad skill set that's, you know, like, oh, I could do this and this, but just really lowering myself from the pedestal. I'm getting off track, but you're
doing fine.
I think just the personal growth kind of ties into that a little bit.
It does.
But
I hear, if I may, teachability is important to you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this much. It is well received by your peers. You know, when somebody your age with your hunger and your drive is also teachable and humble and respectful, like green flags are going off.
Yeah.
You know, so for Mark and Jaden and myself and Beto, I mean, honestly, you know, we're all going, man, this is cool, because it's very common for, not to put age in there, but let's just say the boss's kid, right? I might have told this story on the podcast already, but and you probably know this. I don't know. Mom and dad had a restaurant. One of the first restaurants they opened. It was really successful. And so I thought I ran that place, you know, and I was probably, I'm going to say 8 or 9, you know, and I was in there. I mean, I was spoiled, right? I was in there on like a Sunday and it was about to get real busy. And I told one of the waitresses that I needed some ice cream, you know, and she, you know, the type of people my mom and dad hired were no pushovers, you know, and so she wasn't having it, you know, and I said, well, you're fired. And she took me on the porch and explained to me why she wasn't fired. So you don't have that. But I'm just saying it's just different to be the owner's son. Like you almost have a target on your back also.
Definitely.
Where people are looking at you going, oh, what's he going to do? Well, if he doesn't do the PR report, then I don't have to. You know what I mean? So it's like you're going to have that. That's just not going away. But I think you're handling it fantastic.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I feel like I can just kind of sell myself. You know what I mean? If I'm like, I'm not the stereotypical boss's son, and that's that. You know what I mean? I'm, you know, like you just have to know me to be able to kind of gauge, you know, what you think. You know, like if you think I'm the boss's son, I'm gonna act like I'm not. I'm not gonna act like it.
No, it's it's awesome. I love it. It's fun to watch and fun to be a part of. What else we got cooking? What are some other usual questions? You know, a lot of times I'm digging into people's past or their, you know, they've got,
I mean, it's hard when you have a young host because my past is my whole life feels like the last 3 years, honestly. Like,
I know. I think you've had exponential things go down in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's take it and turn it on its head a little bit and go, Okay, I think you might have broached the subject already.
Yeah,
30,
slightly.
40, 50, 60. I can't hold you to it, but are you thinking that you guys probably stay in Arizona? Are there
Yeah.
more kids on the horizon?
Yeah.
What are there any big trips that maybe you and your wife have planned specifically, or a shared dream of, okay, hey, we got to hit this mark, or we want to go to this place, or anything like that?
Yeah. To get a little bit more into depth on the, I guess, the personal side of like the goals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, dude, by the time I'm 30, my daughter's going to be in middle school. She's going to be a little grown woman, and I'm still going to be a kid at 30 years old. Like that, you're still a kid. I've met 30-year-olds that
It depends on the person.
I've met 30-year-olds that are, 4 kids in a house, couple trucks. I've met 30-year-olds that are just single, living with their buddies in an apartment. Fortnite pros.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, I think by the time I'm 30, I definitely see myself building my forever home. I definitely do see myself staying in Arizona.
Okay.
Just because of, London's in Tennessee. We got family out in Oregon. There's nothing for me in Oregon besides, a couple of buddies that I grew up with. I think my life is in Arizona now. Great place to visit. I think we're going to be here for at least the next 18 years until Ruby's out of high school. For sure. Like at a minimum until Ruby's out of high school, we'll stay here in Arizona. And then in that time period, I hope the next 6 years, I hope to kind of have, paved such a path within the company that I'm able to just kind of work on my own schedule and almost like not shape someone into like who I am.
You want to be replacing yourself.
Yeah, essentially that.
I am doing that.
I want to be able to replace myself. I have no idea where I would fit in the company if a scenario like that were to happen, where I just kind of have as much free time as possible. But that's essentially my goal, is just work my butt off now so that I can, provide a very good, fruitful life for my family, and at the same time spend time with my family, because that's the most important thing to me. I'm not so much worried about a bunch of money in no time. I'm okay with. I prefer a bunch of money and a lot of time, but I'm okay with a healthy amount of money and a lot of time, just so good, because I'm already rich. I already made it. I have everything that I could ever have. Like I could die a happy man, So I think for now it's kind of just focusing on my wife and my daughter and providing for them, because I am quite literally rich. I've already made it.
Amen.
At my age, I really don't have. I don't want too much. I'm just kind of like here for the ride.
I love that.
It's really hard to look past 30 years old, honestly. Like, wow. It's really hard.
Brutally honest. I love it. Yeah, no, what you're describing kind of sounds like a word that is scary for a lot of people, and it's hard to communicate, but it's contentment. Not a lot of people are content. Not most people are truly content. And while I'm always striving and things, that's part of what makes me content. Like I am pretty much good with it. Like I trust God. Most things I am just are just in his hands, and I trust God that tomorrow I'm going to wake up or I'm not, but it's in God's hands. And so I live my life that way, but it allows for a contentment because I'm never worried. I don't carry worry. I don't, I'm confident that whatever tomorrow brings will be what tomorrow brings. Yeah. That much I know.
I mean, I think to touch on that a little bit, I think one of the traits that I strive to have, for the rest of my life is always being content with where I am. Humans are humans. People go through rough patches, but for the most part, I really just want to be content always. But never ever do I want to be complacent.
Bingo.
That's no bueno. So I think that's one of the things, and it's really easy to confuse content and complacent. I'm definitely very content, but I don't want to get complacent, and that's why I'm always striving to learn more and better myself, so that by the time I'm 25, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I have the knowledge of a 40-year-old in the
You'd be a
trades.
baller in
And
this industry if you keep the current hunger for knowledge, the current work ethic, and the current humility, and I would say just I guess contentment. Really, if you can keep that rolling for 5 more years,
yeah, and that's the hardest part, is keeping it going.
being a just going to be a a beast. What so that excites me a lot. What are maybe what's the next skill you want to be a pro at? Because I feel like already you've taken on irrigation and you know a lot more than people that have been doing it as long as you. I don't think you're a pro yet, but oh my goodness, I think I could turn you loose on a system. What's the next skill that you want to get a lot deeper into?
I mean, I'm just gonna think big here, and I want to be able to look at a $600,000 project
Mm-hmm.
and have no stress
Mm-hmm.
and that it's gonna go smooth. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think so. I think I'm thinking bigger picture here, like running a crew. All right, guys, day
Mm-hmm.
one of this 2-month long project is gonna be
Mm-hmm.
$400,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think just knowing how to do everything,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, essentially, so that way, like, if I'm, you know, going from job to job, I can walk around the job, be like, that's not right. Okay, good, you know, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the next big
So
skill,
break that down. Yeah, back it up.
yeah,
Now
back it up a
you
little
gave me
bit.
the 10,000 foot, get me to 1,000 feet, and then maybe even 100 feet.
Yeah,
What's next
I
to
think
get there?
I think the next skill would just be, I think I really want to learn plants.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the next skill would be kind of taking after Mark a little bit, learning as much as I can from him.
Mm-hmm.
Mark is our project manager. He's a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
He knows a lot about plants. He's been
Mm-hmm.
doing that for the past 2 decades.
Yes.
So I think just building a really good knowledge about plants,
Okay.
you know, because that ties into the irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
After the plants, pavers is pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of really hard to screw that up. I
Mm-hmm.
think I know, you know, the base, what
Yeah.
to what to put under, you
Mhm.
know, and in an ideal scenario, you're gonna do just ABC or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
and then just followed by sand on top of it,
Mhm.
just making sure that it's level. So the pavers and stuff, I feel like I already kind of have a grasp of that.
Yeah.
I can tell, like, hey, that doesn't look right, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Besides that, I mean, I think barbecues. I feel like that's the next step from
That would
there.
be a lot of fun.
Just
I
learning how to
think,
build a
yeah.
barbecue.
Mhm.
I going back to the Belgard training,
Mhm.
I loved the art form barbecues that they
Mhm.
had, like the options they have for the art forms,
Mhm.
because those are, you can literally build a barbecue in less than 30 minutes. You
Yeah.
know, everything's plugged. If your gas is already ran and
Mhm.
everything's, you can literally build a barbecue in 30 minutes with the art forms.
That's crazy.
You're paying for it.
Yeah.
No, but I want to learn how to build traditional barbecues.
Okay.
Using, I know them as cinder blocks. What's the technical name?
Yeah. Cinder blocks.
Cinder blocks.
Yeah. 8816 CMU.
CMU. Yeah.
Mhm.
Using like CMU, stackstone, stucco,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a whole skill set.
I want to learn how to build
I
barbecues.
actually thought about sending you away to a masonry school.
Yeah.
So that might be in your future.
Yeah, I think that's the next step, because I feel like besides barbecues, there's really no like man, how do I put this?
I mean, electrical and just the codes. I think I
Yeah.
essentially want you to know any and everything I know, and then plus be, you know, you're young enough that you can actually do the skills.
Yeah.
You know, I would probably break myself if I went out and tried to build a barbecue right now.
I can see that.
So that's fascinating. I wonder. Okay, so I like the scope and the scale that you're talking about. I think, how do you feel like, okay, so one of my strong suits, I think, is being able to pick people
Yeah.
or pick a team, you know? How do you think that plays into your big dream of having 4, 6, 8 $100,000 jobs under your belt? How important are the people?
The people are very important, and I think it's going to take a lot more time than I think to build a team that you can trust and leave on a $400,000 job and know that it's going to get done right, and that you're not going to have to come back for the next year fixing this and that. So I think building the teams is way more important than anything else, honestly. The people, I think.
They've got to know their stuff.
Yeah, you got to know their stuff.
And you got to be able to trust them, because some people can
trust
know,
is huge.
They
Trust
can
is the
know
number
their
one
stuff,
thing.
but they could also still just not feel like working today.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, going back to you and knocking on the doors, and even what I've seen here, where you're getting up early, you don't want to get up early. It's an hour drive. You know, you still got to do the thing. Like, that's part of work is functioning and doing the thing. So I applaud you there for the current path that you're on.
Thank you.
What do you think would be kind of your dream team? You know, who are some of the personality types that you might hire? Maybe some of your skill sets that you think are most important. Tell me a little bit about the character of your dream team.
Yeah. So to be really specific, you know, like within the next year or so, I'm going to assume that I'm pretty much going to have my not my crew, but a crew that I'm running.
Yeah.
And I think my dream team would be 4 guys plus me. I think that's kind of the industry standard is about 4 guys, depending on the scope of the projects. You know, if it's a bigger scope project, okay, 6 guys, whatever it might be.
No, go with your 4 model. I like this.
With the 4 model, I want one that really just, like Esdras, our guy, that really just knows irrigation and is just a complete pro at it. And we can put him on that. And if anyone tries to tell him what to do with irrigation, he can tell him to go away.
Yeah. Go give me more pipe.
Yeah, the irrigation's really important.
I agree. I think as I've been in the industry, it's been the one thing that's like constantly, like, doesn't matter who the friggin' crew is. Like, it's always something. That's one of the reasons why we're using him. It's just so we've got this specialist that is just doing irrigation.
Yep. But I think the qualities and the features that I really want throughout the group is just trust, full transparency. Just transparency and trust. I don't want to feel like they have to hold back when they're telling me, you know, why they're late or why they have to go home early or just, you know, why they've been down lately. You know, full trust, transparency. I want to be the person they can turn to if they need someone to talk to, given they speak English. Definitely, you know, dream team, all bilingual. But you know, it's kind of hard to come across that.
Yeah.
Somebody that's just really good at turf. And then besides that, so, you know, we got the irrigation guy, we got the turf guy. I'm pretty much just going to be the jack of all trades, helping around. And then we have 2 guys that are just kind of the grunts of the group. You know, they're running gravel, they're compacting base, they're kind of they're just kind of running around constantly. They're not really a perfectionist at everything, but they can do everything. Yeah. So someone similar to me where they can just kind of run around, but mostly just doing the grunt work. So 2 specialists and then two guys that kind of can do everything, but doing a little bit more of the grunt work.
You got kind of the guys leading those guys in their tasks, and eventually on the crews that have been together longer, everybody ends up knowing everything.
Yes,
because at the end of the day, it's not rocket science, but it is paying attention to detail. And I think if any person does one thing long enough, they're going to get really proficient at it, as opposed to doing many things. You know,
to touch on that, I think another trait that I would really appreciate in our guys for my crew specifically would just be someone that's willing to, you know, be like, hey, I messed this up, like I know it's going to take extra time, but I'm going to redo it. You know, or just someone who's not going to just, you know, cover up their mistake and call it good because they want to save the company's. Yeah. Just like I would much rather us, you know,
we don't want that either.
Break even on a job, God forbid,
that's going to happen.
Then have to come back and fix something. Jobs. No, it makes, just, I'm so anal about, I'm not super anal about perfection, but you know, I really don't like brushing stuff under the rug. So I think all my guys I wanted to be very similar to me and to where like nothing slides. If we got to redo something, we got to do it, and we're all going to help each other out.
Good
you know,
luck,
when it comes to redoing
no
stuff.
No matter who it's been that I've worked with in the construction industry.
Yeah,
asking construction guys to redo something they've done, kid gloves.
But that's what's going to set us apart. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're not doing it. I'm just saying
that's how we're going to really
careful
thrive.
As you tread in those waters. Yeah, because you ask a grown man that just got done with something to move a border over a foot because the salesman boogered it up. Watch out. With
that, I think you got to. Another trait is logic. logically, if somebody's giving me pushback on something they messed up, like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We got to fix it.
And then also with that, I think just having a younger crew, the veterans, love them. Great. But I think with the scenario of how my crew is going to be operating, I think I definitely want younger guys that we're all going to kind of connect on a certain level and just be able to be like, if a job's going to take...
There does have to be a vibe there, I would agree.
A vibe there. Yeah. We all have to connect. Like if a job's going to take 4 days, we're like, I'm like, hey guys, we do it in 3. You can have Thursday off or whatever. You're going to get paid for it. Kind of that vibe or not.
Yeah. I love that though.
I know.
No, that's a great idea.
Just
though.
like, let's work 3/12s and call it good.
Yeah, no, it's going to be hard. Yeah, no, I'm about that. I would definitely love to look at that, but it's going to be so hard because it's actually hard to gauge exactly how long a job's going to take.
It is.
Out of the gate, that's one of my biggest things with scheduling is I usually try to hold a handful of guaranteed 1-day jobs and 1 day or less, and then the people know they're like, hey, we're going to float you, but we're going to work you in. That's one of the hardest things is like you say like 1 week, well, this week's a great case in point. I thought we started on a 2-day job on Monday and I get a call yesterday at like 2:30, Dad, I think we're going to finish. I think you guys are going to work long and we're going to finish. And, we did have an extra body or two there. So it did make sense, but I'm like, dang, I thought we were going to get in tomorrow. So we're scrambling, to find work for today. And thankfully we, kind of have those jobs in the wings, if you will, to like plug in, hey, let's go do this, and then tomorrow we start on one that's going to be 3, but the truth is it could be 4, so there is this constant like ebb and flow to schedule that's really, really hard to communicate to customers because generally they're so used to like, man, 3 days means 3 days. And we strive for that, but it's like, there's a real world out there that like pushes back sometimes. Yeah.
And to be able to build a system to where we can communicate, be a lot more transparent with the customers, which is just really hard. People are people. Some people are just weird, like you could tell them, okay, we're 3 months out, and they're fine with it. But, if we're only a couple weeks out and then we got to push it back a couple of days, it's the end of the world, so it's just, people are different.
It's interesting. It's one of the harder metrics to balance is under communicating and over communicating.
Yes.
And when to communicate, because some people feel flooded, some people aren't getting enough. And so it really is tailoring your communication, which frankly, a lot of it's automated once it works through. A lot of it will be automated once it works through our workflow. It's going to be like, hey, your job just got moved from, pending to ready to schedule. Congratulations. Here's what that looks like, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, that's the building the systems for that. It's going to be amazing. And I'm really excited for that.
It's going to be huge. And it's going to be like 16-hour days.
Yeah.
It's going to suck.
I'm really excited to look back on this. Like that was one of the main reasons I was like, all right, let's do this because, and then in 5 years looking back at this and where we are right now,
I know,
4 or 5 months in business, to a couple years down the road, where we're going to be at. I'm really curious to see.
I think you're not alone.
I don't like, I think the only like the worst case scenario I see is just the economy going down the toilet. Like I really don't see anything slowing down for us. I really believe that like hope to God this is just a drop in the bucket and we're building crews on crews and we have more work than we know what to do with, which is kind of started to happen recently. Stuff's kind of fallen into place and it's a good problem to have where we're struggling to schedule people out. Yeah. Where we're already, a month out,
it's wonderful.
It's a very good problem to have, but I'm just excited to see how many different crews we're going to have operating and then with that same problem.
Well, this is the huge challenge in construction and industry and anything. And I think we're going to win because we're going to build the systems. We're going to build the systems that everybody else says they're going to build or wants to build or thinks about building. We're investing in the systems and we're taking the time to do it, even though it's a lot of hours and it kind of sucks on the front side. It's kind of like sacrificing more of your paycheck up front so that you can retire better.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm looking at this.
No, I agree. That is what's going to set us apart. There's a lot of amateurs that just somehow made it big and they're learning as they go, but I really do like the dynamic of just doing all the stuff we don't want to do early on while we still can. You know what I mean? Because
you hit a good point right there. I want to touch on it because while we still can, already I've noticed like, crud, I'm busy. Like I'm so busy. And I'm thinking like 3 months ago, I was doing everything myself. What changed? And it's like, oh, add a person. Oh, add a person. And it's communication. So communication has taken away more of my time on top of not gloating I hope people don't hear what I'm not saying, but it's just all the tasks, so it's been fun to kind of like start to delegate and be like, all right, well, this is your baby.
Yeah.
Take care of her. Yeah. Please be good to her,
Definitely.
And so it's, that's a big part of the whole systems idea is we've created the system so that we can, there you go. That's yours now. Here's your playbook. Here's how you do that.
Yeah.
And good luck. Come to me if you need something else. Well, and for you, I'm excited. I hope that I can encourage you to start reading. One of the things I think if you were to watch any of these podcasts that I've had is I'll bring up a book and the person will come back with another book and blah, blah, blah. And we'll just go back and forth like that a few times. And I think that some of them are garbage, but a lot of them have some really valuable information. And if the whole book isn't gold, there's generally some nuggets in there. And I think one that's funny, and I think he stole it now that I've done some more research, I'm not sure, but there was there was a book I read. Somebody else doing 80% of something is 100% freaking awesome. Stan Martell. And the concept there is just that, like, look, people are not going to do things like you. And maybe better, maybe worse, but as the person delegating the thing, you're always going to think that it's only 80%. That's still freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's something that I've had to get better at and just be like, well, cool. It's 80%, and I'm not Mr. Perfect by all means, but it's just perception. Yeah. It's a perception that like, oh, I might have done that a little bit differently.
I mean, yeah, I think a real life scenario of that would just be like Beto and his Beto and his crew and their output and just seeing the change just so quick, because I feel like off rip, we just kind of expected something. And when that wasn't met, we were like, shucks, but then when we just communicated what we wanted and kind of put our foot down a little bit more, it's been great, like I've really noticed the attention to detail and stuff. So I think that kind of correlates to like, he's maybe not doing it 100% the way we want it, but I'll still take 80% because like you said, there's
been a real change there too. And I've noticed it as well. And so lesson for you, it's hard to be head down on a job and still watch everyone, or go and get material and still watch everyone. So that trust and that building the expectations clearly, like this is what we're going to do, crucial.
Yeah.
Critical.
Yeah, expectations.
And I don't know what switch flipped for that particular contractor, but he definitely decided, yeah, okay, we're going to do it your way. It's been wonderful. I love it. I love to see that change.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to close out this year. What do you think would be like a flagship project for next year? Like,
okay,
what is maybe like something that you want to get under your belt as Rising Tide Landscapes? What do you think we should go after maybe? Or is there a certain style, size, area, anything you've thought of?
Definitely. I think I have two.
Okay.
I think one is I really want to land a new construction commercial build. Okay. I think it would be totally sweet to do like the construction maybe not next year. But so I'll put that in the back burner because this is like bigger scope.
Let's go year 2.
Yeah, bigger scope next year or two. I think a commercial landscape project like an apartment complex.
Okay.
Or like a plaza or something of that sort would be
big date palms,
would be huge.
And large spaces.
Yeah, because you definitely need a bigger crew.
Planters, put a couple crews together.
I think that would be huge.
Okay,
a really good way to kind of just put our name in the ground. You know what I mean? Quite literally, because those complexes last for however many years, and then I think. Also with that, I think just a revenue based backyard, just something on a bigger scope. I won't go into revenue, but I'll just say on a time scale, contractors, you can do the math, but I think a 2-month long job, I think would be pretty awesome. You know what I mean? I think biting off a little bit more than we chew early on,
being challenged, is what I hear there.
I think, I think definitely challenging ourselves. I think that provides for growth, and I think doing it early on when you still have time to do the thing learn from it, and then do it even better next time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rather than like training and like doing smaller jobs in preparation for. I feel like there's really no way to train to do a 2-month long job. I think you just got to do it.
Yeah, it was funny today. I've got some good lines of credit, but I went to go get really my first revolving credit account, and it was like, where else do you have accounts? And it took me back to that old adage of the want ad that says truck driver wanted, depends on experience, you know, welder wanted, depends on experience. Well, how do you get the experience if you never, you know what I mean? And so to your point, I think trial by fire is sometimes the best, you know your limits, know what you can probably pull off, but, you know, don't go jumping into a, you know, I don't know, 50 million billion gazillion BTU, 5,000 square foot fire display.
I'm glad you brought that up because definitely I would love a really long project, but also like knowing our limits. Mm-hmm. Like if we know that like it's just not doable, we're not going to do it. But I'm just saying, like, I want to be right on that line of like, can we pull this off? Like
we've got some great guys. I know. It's like I'm constantly reminded, like, wow, they did this. Wow, they did that. This is fantastic.
No, they're great, and I'm really excited to add to the team. And like I really hope that me and you can both be like fluently bilingual down to like the last minute detail to where we can literally we can get deep into the grammar. You know, and to be able to communicate with people. And with that, I just mean being able to mix crews together. Because I know in the Latino culture or the Mexican culture, it's, you know, the states are very divided. It's really, when they're all from the same state, it's really hard to mix them together. But I hope like maybe work a little bit of magic using our people skills, being able to mix the crews a little bit.
I think we got to be careful there because, you know, really our goal is to put everybody on the rising tide team. Yeah. At least while you're at work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and that's hard. But I mean, I think that's where, you know, we've almost got to redefine kind of the culture, if you will. Yeah. So it'd be a challenge, but I do agree that it's going to be really nice to kind of have star performers, you know, mix and match on different crews. Yeah, for sure. And I know, no doubt we'll get there. Our Spanish is constantly improving. You need to turn home into like Spanish only weekends, I think.
Yeah, I do. I really do.
You don't eat unless you can like say a certain sentence like 5 times fast or something.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
On that note, I definitely, it would be nice to have some full immersion. So I think we need to plan like a yearly, like 2-week vacation in Cabo. Okay. So for the families, we all go down to Cabo
or Nicaragua.
Nicaragua
would be sweet.
Wherever. I think we can go to Peru. I don't care. It'd be fun to go to Peru with Vicagnoni. It'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely just go immerse ourselves into the culture and really learn it.
It's hard to do here. Like it's
it is. Cause like, you know, you think about Tennessee, Florida, like Oklahoma, all those eastern states, like they all have like thick accents. And then you think about the European country, the Canadians, like we all speak English, but like for somebody who speaks Spanish only, like to hear a Canadian talk versus someone in the UK versus someone here, like it's almost 3 completely different languages. So that's what I'm learning with Spanish is like all these people from different states, they have different accents. So it's hard. It might be easier for me to understand one person way more than the other just because they have a thick accent.
100%. No, it goes with the territory.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
What do you think are the top 3 things that Rising Tide Landscapes cannot do? 1, 2, 3. We can't do this. We can't do this, and we can't do this. What are those things that we got to be really careful of that, you know, maybe you think might really be a disaster?
Okay, that's a really good question. I need a little bit of help with it though, just to get the ball rolling so I can think in the back of my mind for the next answer.
Yeah. So it's always fun to talk about the great stuff and this is wonderful. And we're awesome. And look at us and check our reviews and blah, 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 blah. What do you think derails the ship? What do you think maybe like, oh man, that shouldn't have happened? Or, man, one thing we are going to guard against is this thing. or
I mean, this
anything
isn't
like that.
the first thing I'll say is this isn't industry specific at all, but I mean, I would say like the death of all relationships is lack of communication. So I think one thing we can't do is stop communicating with each other.
I love it.
So just always really heavy on the communication, no matter how annoying it gets, especially with old timers. I don't. This communication is just
and people have different
important.
languages too. So like a phone call from Mark is like you texting Adriana for an hour. Like, so different languages. Speak phone to Mark.
Yeah, and then
Speak
I
phone to
think
me
as
too.
a company, I feel like one thing we can't do is put our trust in the wrong person. I think we have to be very cautious with who we choose to be a part of our team. It's one person can sink the whole ship. So
rotten apple theory.
Yeah. So I think that's another thing. The third thing,
careful hires. Okay.
Yeah. The third thing I would say, it's really hard. How about you come up with one? Can you think of one, or would you put
say
you
you're
on the
going to
spot
do something, do it. As hard as it is, whatever you got to do. If you say you're going to do something, do it.
Okay.
So don't not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't not do that. I think close it off. I think one thing we can't do as a company would be dramatic pause.
This better be good. Better be really good. As the seconds creep by.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody just turn their YouTube off.
Yeah. No, they pause the video. They're waiting. No. It's really tough for me to say just because I'm so new to the industry. I haven't seen enough to really know like what you can and can't do as a company.
I think you nailed it. I think you completely nailed it. And it goes back to all the things that you liked about those other companies, that transparency within the company, not like I remember like, okay, maybe we don't talk about salaries, but at the same time, it's like, look, I want to have an open pay structure. So like, if you learn A, I'm going to pay you this. And if you learn B, guess what? Bonus. If you do C, good. You learn that skill. Now you can climb yourself up a skill ladder instead of like everybody guessing what everybody's making.
I know we can ramble on, but that's honestly, I'm really, really glad that you brought that up because, like if you go into a room and you're having dinner, with your family or whatever, like you don't just ask someone like, hey, how much you making a year?
Why not?
Exactly. It's a very good question, but I really don't understand the dynamic between like not being transparent with how much you make. Like, I really think that should just be a normal, like, in my sales company, like we all knew how much we were making and it only helped us do better because we were, comparing, you don't want to compare yourself on a skill level thing, but like when you see someone making double, triple, quadruple, you might think, okay, wait, what am I doing wrong? What can I learn from this person? So, I feel like if we can build, a culture to where like talking about your salary is no big deal. Cause I've definitely been in cultures where it's like, don't tell them how much you're making. Don't tell them how much you're making. And you have to keep my salary on the down low. And I don't like that. I feel like it should just be totally transparent. Like for example, a fast food restaurant, like I had to be pretty confidential because I was making more than everybody else. And I had been there for a fraction of the time. And that's just because I outworked everyone, and I don't agree with that. I feel like everyone should know how much you're making and it shouldn't be an issue with that. I feel like it, like we have a crew posted up on the board. All right, this crew is generating this much revenue. Second place, third place. Yeah. Maybe not the guys generalized, but just like, you could see the output.
That'll be a fun one to unpack and explore. I've heard both sides of that coin, but most recently the consensus seems to be like it's okay to talk about money.
Yeah, I think
agree. Talking about money in our culture is weird. A lot of people don't like it.
Yeah, it's an old school thing. I feel like that
things.
thing is very old school. Not talking about money back when you could buy a house for a couple of grapes.
But I mean, part of my company blueprint, I think I haven't decided yet, but I mean, I think I just want to publish the rates that we're paying and what you can do to make more. Have this skill set. It'd be like an electrician, journeymen get X and apprentices get this. And, if you're a welder, you're going to get paid based off of your skill set, instead of like, hey, I like you, you get a raise.
I agree with that. I love that. I feel like full transparency with how much one another's making is totally fine. Like I want my crew to be able to talk about
The desire to
make more. Hey, how much are you making? Oh, okay, interesting. But I want it to be very clear as to why this person's making this much and why this person's making this much. So like you said, the skill set is what earns your salary. I really like that. And I think that is one thing that we should do that a lot of companies don't.
Cool.
It's just full transparency with like the salaries and the wages and stuff. I don't know why it's so weird for people to talk about money.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, we're going to have to explore this. It definitely can create some tension, if everybody else but the boss knows that John is slacking but getting paid more than George, who might just have a little bit different skill set. So I don't know.
It does get weird.
I think I want to publish it though.
That's why building systems is so important. We wouldn't just go into that willy-nilly. We would really study and figure out what kind of system needs to be in place for that to work. So,
man, I love it. I am stoked to see what happens. And I think more than anything, you said it, I'm excited to watch this in 5 years.
Yeah. No, yeah, me too.
And have this little time capsule.
Really
I think that's been the weirdest thing about all this for me, being open, being on a podcast and doing the Instagram and everything, has just been the fact that we're going to watch this in 5 years and see what's what.
Yeah. And I like that you bring that up because it's like, we're not doing this for like a certain amount of followers, or we're not doing this for like validation or just because everyone else is doing it. I feel like we're simply just building a resume. You know what I mean? Because 5-10 years down the road, when we're huge, people are going to look back and be like, no way, like they knew it from the get-go that they were going to be something big, because I feel like we're really just building that resume regardless of the numbers that anything does.
I love it. No,
like, this podcast will probably have like maybe 5 or 6 views for the next 5 years, until we really have built a name for ourselves. And
I agree. It's so fun too, because we're just talking, but it's going to be so fun to unpack it with some time, and I think that it's fun that you would say that, because that's ultimately my motivation is to build a brand, build a company, right? That's why I'm doing all these things that I'm not so comfortable with, but it's also great because it holds us accountable and it lets people into our world. What are these guys thinking about? What drives Cohen and Eric? Well, thank you so much, son. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
See you for dinner later.
Yeah, I'll see you for dinner.